Mortgaging Ghana's future for a pittance. The growing cases of the sale of cocoa farms for as low as 10,000 Ghana cedis.
We are appealing to government. The Chinese are destroying cocoa farms. Every mined area here used to be a cocoa farm.
We'll hear from farmers at Inyinamso who say they are being forced by the activities of illegal miners. Over 36,000 commercial vehicles have been involved in road crashes between 2010 and 2021. That is, 31% of them are minibuses.
Pedestrians do not use zebra crossing, contributing to accidents on this road.
NDC piles more pressure on EC to abandon plans of making the Ghana card the sole requirement to enroll onto the voters register, as they accuse Jean Mensah and the EC of seeking to rig the 2024 elections and destabilize the country.
Matters that threaten the sustenance of our democracy and our very peace as a nation. The Electoral Commission is seeking to undermine our democracy through the proposed public election registration of voters instruments.
We have details as they serve notice of using all means to fight the proposed constitutional instrument, which is set to be laid before Parliament when it resumes.
We wish to serve notice that we will use every lawful means to resist this latest effort to undermine the right of Ghanaians to vote, and in the process skew the electoral system in favor of the MPP.
And coming up in prime business.
Over 76 illegal forex dealers in Tudu have been arrested. We have details at 8 p.m.
The people we arrested are not even Ghanaians, and they come into our system and distort everything that we think is lawful.
Hello again, my name is Ernest Kojo Manu. Let's settle for the details now. Data from the National Road Safety Authority indicates that between 2010 and 2021, 36,798 commercial vehicles were involved in road crashes. Out of this number, 11,487 were minibuses, representing 31%. This has prompted the National Road Safety Authority to contemplate restricting the movement of commercial minibuses to intra-city services or routes not exceeding 40 kilometers. This, according to the authority, is to help reduce avoidable road crashes that occur on Ghana's highways. This decision is also being fueled by numerous complaints from road users, including the Ministry of National Security, on the incessant high speeds and reckless overtaking by drivers of minibuses on major corridors, particularly the Kumasi-Accra Highway. So why the focus on minibuses? Let's share with you the data that we have from the National Road Safety Authority on the crashes we've seen so far on the roads between 2018 to 2021. So there you have it on your screens. And this is for crashes, captured for only commercial vehicles. And so you have minibuses leading that chart with 31.22%. Taxis, 28.56%. You have trucks following with 22.54%. Buses then follow with 15.02%, and others they're captured as 2.67%. So this is just for commercial vehicles. And there you have the trend analysis there. So you see the figure, 2,837 for 2018. It dips in the year 2019, but you see an upward trajectory from 2019, that's 2020 and 2021. Remember, these are the years we even have COVID, where movement at some point were restricted, and yet we saw cases going up for these commercial mini buses. So how effective can this decision be in reducing road accidents on Ghanaian highways? We've been joined via Zoom by Cecil Gabra. He's a road consultant. Mr. Gabra, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Joy News Prime. First of all, what is your take on the proposed sanction? Punitive enough?
What are we all looking at? We are looking at arriving alive in one piece and not in pieces. So it's really a good thing, but we haven't finished. Right. When it starts, we need to see how it goes and it controls, and then we put up controls for everybody to understand. Now, commercial drivers must know that we are not depriving them of their income, but again, we are looking at reducing the tonnage on the road, which is quite on the high. I mean, you just mentioned it. Right. It's really high, and something must be done. So it's really a good thing. But then, what modalities are we putting in place? If we have said, and again, I am with National Road Safety Authority's decision. It's an authority now, so we need to listen to the best in terms of road safety, right? If we say 40 kilometers, now we need to be very clear. 40 kilometers doesn't mean that if you're traveling from Accra, and let's say you cross the Tamamoto Way, you cannot go further. I mean, certain calculations must be done. Right. But then I think that we should look at what is being practiced in Cote d'Ivoire. I sat on the DVLA board for good 8 years. We traveled and saw what was there. For instance, some minibuses, are painted yellow. And if they are yellow, they cannot leave, let's say, Kokomlemle, and then go beyond Nungwa. Or let's say, go beyond La. So then, if the police sees any let's say yellow bus around Nungwa, then that driver will be arrested.
So that makes, I guess, the monitoring and the enforcement, easy, both for the Road Safety Authority and the police. But Mr. Gabra, the data also suggests that you have more private cars involved in road crashes between 2018 and 2020. I mean, what we saw was just for commercial vehicles, but the sum of that compared to the number of private cars engaged in road crashes far outweighs the figure we saw. We of course understand that commercial vehicles, because of the numbers they carry, has more impact. But should we be targeting private cars as well, as far as this measure is concerned?
Okay, so wait a minute. Let me just finish what I am saying. Commercial vehicles carry a lot of passengers, Let's say 15, 17 passengers in a minibus. Private vehicle can manage to take a maximum of 5, including the driver. Right, so if you look at the calculations and then you ask of an accident, how many people will die in a minibus when all 15, 17 are dead, and how many will die in a private vehicle? Right, so the controls must begin from larger vehicles and then comes down to private vehicles. For private vehicles, let's agree to the fact that it's all due to speed, Speed is the issue. And then in Ghana, I always talk about the 4 technical E's, namely engineering of the road, education, enforcement, as well as emergency services. But then we have the weakness in enforcement. So that is why we have a lot of private vehicles being crushed. And they are crashing because of the major issue, which is speed, If we have speed limits, on our roads, and then we arrest people, I think that will end the issue on private vehicle crashes. Because let's say if you look at the issue of Accra Cape Coast and you see a vehicle doing a maximum of 140 kilometers per hour, right? There is no deterrent on the road, I'm not even talking about the policemen being on the road, but then if we have speed cameras that will, take pictures, take your speed that you are traveling at, and you get to a next station, and then you get to maybe a barrier or somewhere else and you are stopped for overspeeding, that will serve as a deterrent for the private vehicles to reduce the accidents. But then for commercial, we are looking at the factors restricting their movement in terms of speed. Because, in fact, this morning, I was on your show again, and then if you look at the speed on the motorway itself, I mean, motorway, Accra Tama motorway, for a minibus doing a speed of about 120, 140, that is killing. I will even suggest that the 40 kilometers must be reduced to, let's say, 20 kilometers, where from, let's say, where my office is, you can only go to Accra, you can go to, let's say, Sankara Circle, sorry, I'm an old man, so I'm using all those, right.
That's fine.
So you don't go beyond the 20 kilometers per hour, okay? You cannot drive more than 80 kilometers per hour on such roads. Maximum will be 60 because you are driving in transport. That could help. And then secondly, just like I said, our brothers who are driving the mini vehicles must not think that we are taking them out of business.
Very well.
But we should also look at the means of transporting people through, commuters through, let's say, Accra Cape Coast. And I call for a safety audit on such vehicles, such companies like 08, all those buses that will now have the advantage of carrying a lot of passengers must go through a transport audit, where we need to look at their vehicles to find out whether they are roadworthy. The drivers driving the vehicles, are they really the proper drivers that we are looking at? What category of license do they carry? What experience do we have? And so on, right? That will end the carnage on the road. It will reduce it to minimum.
The barest minimum. Mr. Gabra, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that you could join us here on Joy News Prime. That's Cecil Gabra. He is a transport consultant. And one of the transport companies named in the press release today, 2M Express, has expressed disappointment in the statement by the Road Safety Authority, which indicts them. We're joined by CEO Daniel Ochimel-Boaji via Zoom. Thank you very much, Mr. Boaji, for your time here on Joy News Prime. So what in the statement for you is disappointing? You are accused of two things, of reckless overtaking and, speeding, as well as failure to ensure that you have speed limiters on your vehicles. Are these facts inaccurate?
Well, they are very, very much, to a large extent, inaccurate. As far as the Thomas question, so let me say good evening to you and good evening to your listeners and viewers. For road safety to promote anything that is ensuring that passengers are safe, that is what we stand for. But that is what 2M Express came. We came because we wanted to reduce the carnage on the road, and for that reason, we are doing whatever we have to do to ensure that the number of road accidents are totally reduced.
Right.
It's disappointing in the sense that we've been in business, 2M Express, for almost 5 years now. We've been working, with road safety. They've been here almost every year. In fact, there has not been any single time that we have received a letter from them complaining about some of these things, even though we all hear complaints here and there a few times. And then they, road safety, in one of their visits, say that 2M is the new standards when they look at our processes. I support the call for audit. And if you do audit, we have to make sure that we are able to rate each of the transport companies individually, not to commingle us or mingle us together and just call us a name. Because we have systems, and when I say systems, recruitment systems that ensure that the right person is hired, their eyes are tested, drug tests, they go through orientation, they go through road tests, they go through a whole bunch of process before they are given anything, any car to drive. That is one. Apart from that, we have tracking system, as you can see. All our cars since we began in 2018 are tracked.
So those are evidence of the trackers we are seeing on the screen.
Exactly. So you can even stop the cars on your phone. And we've been doing this since 2018, since we started. We have records for every car movement that has moved from where to where in our database system. I think we're probably one of the best, transport system today in Ghana, if I don't want to exaggerate or pull it too much. So for road safety to come and list 2M Express as part of everybody, that is where our disappointment comes from. But of course, they are the regulator. I think they should get close, study the process, audit the system, the entire infrastructure from beginning to end, see what we do, and be sure of yourself before you put our name out there. Because I can tell you, nobody is going to invest about 6 billion old Ghana cedis or 600,000 today into these minibuses and just sit aloof on concern.
But have you reached out to the Road Safety Authority since this happened? Have you reached out to them, Mr. Boaje? Have you reached out to them?
Yeah, I've called their regional office. I'm in commercial right now. I've called their regional office and they said that, well, we shouldn't be part of the list, but maybe it's a warning to everybody because they know us.
Right.
They are just here 2 months ago and they know our systems. They know the kind of things we do. And even in 2M Express, I can tell you, since we've been here, in 5 years, we've transported over 2.2 million people.
Well, we'll leave it here for now, Mr. Boaje. I'm grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. Would follow up with the National Road Safety Authority to find out what they make of your, challenge or disappointment with the issue. Now, away from road safety, farmers at Enyinamso #1 in the Ashanti region say they are forced to sell their cocoa farms to illegal miners. An acre of cocoa farm is being sold between 10,000 and 15,000 Ghana cedis. The farmers tell Joy News illegal miners in some instances dig trenches all around their farms, making it difficult for them to access the farms. There's more in this report.
Enyinamso #1 and 2 are twin farming communities recently taken over by mining in the Atwimangwabieja district of Ashanti. The entire river belt of the River Enyinam has been taken over and destroyed by illegal miners, even as the government's Operation Halt fights mining close to water bodies across the country.
So this is what remains of the River Enyinam. It has been stopped right here, and the miners are now digging deep within the riverbed itself. And so it is denying farmers here water to water their crops and even use it to spray their cocoa farms. And as you can see, the riverbed has been blocked here, and so definitely when it starts raining, there's going to be a huge overflow which will destroy their cocoa farms over to the other side.
Cocoa farms are bought by miners for between 10,000 and 25,000 cedis. Those who will not sell, like Boache Mensah, sometimes find themselves cut out from their farms by the miners.
They are frustrating us to force us to sell our farms, but we won't, because it's a legacy for us and our children's children.
Some farmers are incensed with illegal mining activities here.
We are appealing to government. The Chinese are destroying cocoa farms. Every mined area here used to be a cocoa farm. That could have served our country well.
But some of the miners claim they are operating legitimately even in the middle of the river. Thomas Arthur claims he works for a licensed mining company.
This is a small-scale mining site awarded to Nayak by the Minerals Commission, and we are working with them. It extends to Kukubiso and Ekradada. For the destruction to the river, we came to meet it.
Close to the main Nkarie Bebiani road, miners are busily digging close to the asphalt. Also, within the Enyinamso No. 2 township, some Chinese miners are boldly mining away with huge equipment. Until the government intervenes, farmers and cocoa farms are at great risk of mining. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Enyinamso, Ashanti region.
Meanwhile, a scientist and senior researcher at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research has revealed that some residents of predominantly farming communities in the Ashanti region are now traveling to Kumasi to buy foodstuff. Dr. Stephen Yeboah attributes this to the adverse effect of galamsey. He notes that some farmlands, especially in the Amansia West District, are infertile. Dr. Yeboah is therefore calling on government to urgently initiate measures to address the situation.
I think galamsey effect on agriculture is very obvious because it is the same lands that are used for food production that is being used for galamsey activities. What it means is that even the land availability for food production is decreasing, and then the resources for food production such as water bodies are also being polluted. So it is a very serious issue that we need to pay attention to. Obviously, if you go to areas in Ashanti region, Amansia and all those areas, now farmers have to even come to Kumasi to buy food crops for their families to feed on, because basically now they can't use their land to cultivate the crops that they used to, and then life has become so difficult because food produced in the community is very expensive, so that even in
that's an irony. This is supposed to be a farming community.
So that is the current situation that is happening, and it's going to get worse because increasingly farmlands are being used for galamsey.
Well, let's speak to Head of Public Affairs at Cocoa Board, Fifi Boafo. Mr. Boafo, grateful you could join us. So we have heard you talk about the effect of this on your operations. You spoke extensively over the weekend, but this certainly does call for some drastic measures.
The threat it poses, it's huge. Day in, day out, we have reports showing that cocoa farms are being lost to illegal mining. In terms of efforts being made, I think I've spoken extensively about it on the station. We are engaging other stakeholders in the country to come in our aid, because on our own as Ghana Cocoa Board, we lack the capacity to effect arrest or to prevent the people from there. In terms of education, I think we've done some extensive education in letting the farmers appreciating the danger we face. And it's demonstrated in the reports by your reporter, who says that the farmers are resistant, giving the cocoa lands to these individuals who seek to use the land for illegal mining. Unfortunately, the farmers are not empowered enough to resist the temptation. This is because when the farmers resist it, they use other coercive means of compelling them to release the land. But it's not a fight lost completely yet. We shall still continue engaging, and we shall still continue playing our part in ensuring that we prevent this from happening, as making our cocoa industry, which has served the country very well and continue to serve our country, lose its pride to illegal mining.
In the meantime, what can you tell us about the quality of our cocoa?
The quality of our cocoa is still intact. We produce the very best quality of cocoa in the world, except to say that this comes at a very high cost, because we must ensure that before the cocoa is exported out of our country, it goes through rigorous means of assessing whether the cocoa meets the standard and the quality. And this I say because we have a laboratory in Tema that these cocoa has to go through that testing protocols to ensure that genuinely the cocoa going out is a quality cocoa before it's exported. We have to also engage the farmers to ensure that they are able to work within the prescribed protocols and procedures in getting the cocoa. And that's exactly what we are doing. Yes, the cocoa remains the best quality cocoa in the world. The quality is high, but it comes at a higher cost to us as an industry regulator and also to the farmers.
Thank you very much. And our fingers are very much crossed. We are looking forward to the measures that will be rolled out on this, and we'll report to our viewers. I'm grateful you could join us. But let's go to Parliament and speak to the ranking member on the Agri Committee of the House. Eric Opoku joins us via phone. Mr. Opoku, I'm grateful. But this is a trend that is growing and becoming more alarming. You must be concerned as a committee that has oversight on this sector.
Yeah, we are concerned about it. You know, as Fifi rightly said, it is seriously affecting cocoa production. You know, in 2020, Ghana recorded cocoa production of 1,045,000 tons. In 2021, we recorded just 683,000 tons. Look at the difference. A huge fall. We have never experienced this kind of fall in cocoa production in the history of cocoa in Ghana. And this is partly attributed to galamsey activities on cocoa farms. And it is something that everybody is worried about it. Cocoa raised in $2 billion annually, and look at what is happening. If we are not careful, a time will come, we cannot even get 500,000 tons of cocoa. And that will seriously affect the development of our nation. As we speak today, because of that significant fall in cocoa production, we know we have to process some of the cocoa that we produce in Ghana. This year, because of the 683,000 tons we had last year, we collateralized 639 out of that quantity to secure the loan. And so 683,000 minus 639, you are left with something around 44,000. And under the BUI agreement with China, we have to give them 30,000 every year. So when you take the 30,000, Ghana will be left with just 14,000 tons. But the cocoa processing companies have the capacity of around 286,000 tons, close to 300,000 tons. So what it means is that this year, more than 90% of the cocoa that will be processed in this country will have to be imported.
And Honorable, this obviously throws a spanner in the works of the Agri Ministry for all the intervention programs. Do you think that a review is imminent?
Arrest the issue of illegal mining. And that must be done by the president. Because all natural resources of our country have been given to the president to keep in trust for the good people of this country. The Constitution has vested that power in the President of the Republic of Ghana. And when you look at the security architecture of Ghana, the President is in absolute control over the security of our country. Are we saying that with all the security agencies we have, with the military, police, migration, fire service, all that we have, the Regional Security Council, the District Security Council, we cannot arrest illegal money in our country? Why? So what we need to do is to mount the pressure on the president to act immediately to arrest this menace. Otherwise, we'll lose the farmland, we'll lose our cocoa, we'll lose everything, and eventually Ghana will be empty. There wouldn't be anything in this country. All of us must come together, mount the pressure on the president. The president must act immediately.
The House resumes in October.
When you go to the regions, yes, and you interact with the security people around, what they tell you is that, yes, we are more than capable, but have they been given those instructions to act? Have they been allowed to exercise their duties to make sure they deal with them? Certainly no, because some political elements are deeply involved in this illegal business, and therefore it has become very, very difficult for the security operatives to move into action.
And so in the light of this, in a few weeks, the House will be resuming. What can we expect from you, especially the minority on the committee, by way of using parliamentary action to bring some more pressure to this?
This is the time we're harvesting yam. So if at this time they are not getting food, then what happens during the lean season? It's a real problem.
Yes, Mr. Opoku, so I'm just finding out from you that once Parliament resumes in October, can we expect you to use your parliamentary power and the tools available to you to exert more pressure on this campaign.
Exactly so. That's exactly what we are going to do. That's what we are going to do. We have to use the parliamentary procedures to ensure that the executive arm of government acts in the interest of the people of Ghana. That is what we have to do.
I'm grateful for your time. That's Eric Opoku, is ranking member on the Agri Committee of Parliament. And 2 Ghanaians have contracted 5 Chinese nationals to engage in illegal mining, have been arrested and slapped with charges including conspiracy to commit crime, namely mining without license, and contracting non-Ghanaians to undertake mining and other mining operations and services without a license granted by the minister. The 2 have pleaded not guilty to the charges and were granted bail to the sum of 2 million cedis. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us via Zoom with some more details on this. Joseph, first of all, what do we know about the 2 accused persons?
And so the first accused person is Wilberforce Essien, who is said to mostly reside at Takwa and sometimes at Tema Community 6. The other accused person, Reverend Wallace Della Brown, is a reverend minister who, according to state prosecutors, lives at Sakumono Estate here in Accra.
And the prosecutors, we understand, have been detailing their involvement with these Chinese nationals. And how was that uncovered, Joseph?
So according to Assistant State Attorney Derek Akanyamike, he said that on September 8th, police picked intelligence that some individuals were undertaking illegal mining at Teliko Bukazo and near Nkrofo in the Western region. And so a raid was conducted at this mining site where the 5 Chinese nationals were picked up. Mining equipment were seized, including excavators and other digging implements as well. Now, in the course of interrogating these Chinese nationals, they mentioned the first accused person, that is Wilberforce Essien, as the one who contracted them to undertake that particular activity. And so he was also picked up by the police. In the course of interrogating him, he said to have admitted to the offense and then named the Reverend Wallace Della Brown as the person who owns the concession on which the mining was taking place. And so the Reverend was then also arrested by the police investigators. Now, he under interrogation said something quite interesting, Ernest. He said that in terms of the mining that takes place on his concession, he says it's mining of clay and kaolin, and it's not mining of gold. But the first accused person had actually told the police prosecutors that he got his approval and to contract the Chinese nationals to undertake gold mining. And so the state attorney says on that basis that these charges were filed against these individuals.
So what happens from here?
And so once the charges were leveled about 2 hours ago, they pleaded not guilty to the charges. They were admitted to bail in a sum of 2 million cedis with 2 sureties to be justified. They are required to deposit their passports as well. Then the sureties need to be persons who reside here in the Greater Accra region. The case is back in court on October 2, where we understand there's the likelihood that some amendments will be made by way of the facts because the investigators intend to establish with evidence the connection between the first accused person, the Reverend Minister, and these 5 Chinese nationals, by which evidence will be given to the court to that effect. Then afterwards, the prosecution will go full swing. And so the case is back in court on October 2, 2022, Ernest.
And October 2, you can trust that we will be in court to follow up on this case. Joseph, thank you very much. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Minu. Still to come, NDC piles more pressure on the EC to abandon plans of making the Ghana card the sole requirement to enroll onto the voters register, as they accuse Jean Mensah and the EC of seeking to rig the 2024 elections and destabilize the country.
Matters that threaten the sustenance of our democracy and our very peace as a nation. The Electoral Commission is seeking to undermine our democracy through the proposed public election registration of voters instruments.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. The opposition NDC has fired The Electoral Commission accusing its chairperson, Jean Mensah, of leading the country onto a path that will plunge the nation into chaos and violence ahead of the 2024 elections. The EC is set to lay a new constitutional instrument before Parliament, which will outlaw all forms of identification and make the Ghana card the sole requirement to enroll onto the voters register. According to National Chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofusampofo, who spoke at a press conference organized by the party's Council of Elders, the new CI is unconstitutional and will be fiercely rejected.
Important matters that threaten the sustenance of our democracy and our very peace as a nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we invited you here today to draw the attention of Ghanaians to how the Electoral Commission is seeking to undermine our democracy through the proposed public election registration of voters instrument. This regulation is clear on the face of it that the Ghana card shall be the only proof of identification for purposes of voter registration. The regulation flies in the face of Article 42 of the Constitution, which states as follows: every citizen of Ghana, 18 years or above, and of sound mind, has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purpose of public elections and referenda. End of quote. This clearly makes the proposed provisions unconstitutional. What it means is that if the CI is passed in its current form, it will not only be unconstitutional, it will radically disenfranchise all those prospective voters who, for no fault of theirs, are unable to obtain the national ID card issued by the National Identification Authority. They would have been denied the right provided for them under Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution.
The NDC says if the EC does not abandon its plans to make the Ghana card the sole requirement to enroll onto the voters register, they will use all lawful means to resist the new CI.
Since the CI has not been formally laid before Parliament, we take this opportunity to call upon the EC to abandon the idea altogether. We wish to serve notice that we will use every lawful means to resist this latest effort to undermine the right of Ghanaians to vote and in the process skew the electoral system in favor of the MPP. We will mobilize the broad masses of Ghanaians to wage a sustained and unrelenting campaign to prevent any attempt by the EC to strip large sections of the population of their right to vote. We demand an immediate cessation of all work on the laying of the CI in Parliament, pending thorough deliberation and consultation with all relevant stakeholders to fine-tune it to take on board the concerns expressed by us and others that others may hold as stakeholders. Given the above circumstances, we have the considered view that CI 91, as amended, is adequate for voter registration and subsequent conduct of 2024 elections. And that there is no justification on the part of the EC to bring this new CI as it proposed to do.
Away from the NDC, some residents and landowners of Akrade and Senchi have been displaced by the construction of the Mpakadan Tema rail project are demanding compensation from government. Chairman of the group, Nana Aferi I, wants the government to honor the agreement to pay them for the use of their lands. Clad in red, residents march at Atimpoku to present a petition to the Sujuman District Chief Executive.
We, the railway accreditation compensation group are going on a demonstration to pressure the government to pay us our land compensation, which has been overdue for the past 4 years. The government took our land for the railway line construction, and since then, up to now, nobody has been paid a penny. We have made several efforts at the land valuation office in Accra, as well as the Ministry of Railways, the Railways Development Authority offices. We have made several efforts. All problems and encumbrances have been cleared. But then, our compensation has still not been paid. From here, we will send our petition to the Minister of Railways Development, Accra, that you should do everything possible to let us get our claims. Accra de Senche Railway Claimants Group. We are in all about 115. We have pressed hard. We have had several deliberations, several meetings, several engagements with the authorities concerned. Now, we also have environmental degradation around as a result of the construction of by the railway line. As you can see, there is some deep cutting around, and it's affecting the nearby houses. The construction has cut off our roads network, our water, and all other service lines. We have made several efforts for them to reconnect us, but to no avail.
You're watching Johnny's Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. We have showbiz up next. Please stay.